Oh, good morning. Hospital porters' pride and dignity stop the New World Order. Oh, yeah. I could have held my alarm clock across the room this morning when it went off. Do you remember how knackered I was last night? Oh, this is Sunday morning, by the way. Yeah, last night was the night we saw Richard Hoagland, and we basically got back at past, late as whatever, and basically the alarm clock has just gone off almost before I even switched it on. Yeah, we've. I suppose I should, after the hectic time we had yesterday, I should sort of like say a bit more about the other speakers yesterday, which I never really got the chance to talk much about. Yeah, there was Max Burns. Now I've never heard of him before. There's a lot that happened. I've described a lot of stuff that I haven't heard before. Maybe I've sort of not been keeping up with the literature, so to speak. Max Burns is a guy from Sheffield who, he sort of like works along with as a journalist, like David Clarke does in Sheffield, but he has very different views from David Clarke. In fact, he's quite scathing about Clarke and all the others like Jenny Randalls and Andy Roberts and the various people who debunk UFOs. Now he told me, but apparently there was actually a major UFO event in 1997 above the Peak District near Sheffield. Now, this is amazing because me and Sue have been to that area since there's all this, and I never knew this was going on. I never heard about this. I should have heard about it. It's not been covered by any of the magazines I've read. It involved the old flying triangles, which have become quite common craft that I've seen. There's multiple sightings, explosions, which maybe indicate some kind of crash, and jets scrambled from nearby RAF bases, and also even there's these guys who found fragments of an aircraft near Sheffield in the woods, and have been identified to various aircraft. Now the RAF don't claim to have lost any aircraft, but it seemed there may have been some kind of incident, another sort of Mantell type incident, where the aircraft actually was destroyed by some kind of extraterrestrial vehicle. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into this a bit more. Now the next speaker was another guy, was Gary Heseltine, who's now he's a very, very clever man. He's a policeman who runs something called PRUFOS, 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 which stands for Police Reporting UFO Incidents. PRUFOS. I love that. I love these various UFO acronyms. Because UFO is a wonderful 3 letters to turn into an acronym, because it's a vowel followed by a consonant followed by a vowel. So you can add other letters to it to make a word, like Bufora or MUFON, or there's various other combinations like that, Anyway, basically, Gary stood up and he basically talked and addressed the audience and talked about the Rendlesham Forest incident, and he's actually helping write a script on that. He talked about it like it was a police investigation about the various incidents that happened, and which is very which is, because he knows about these. He interviewed the various guys who were involved: Larry Warren, Charles Holt, Peniston Burroughs, Stinzer, all the others. He's not managed to interview Lieutenant Tamplin, but then she's not very, very keen to cooperate with the researchers after this ball of light appeared in her car and scared the shit out of her. Now, Gary talks about the media. He's everyone was very scathing about the media today, like they were yesterday. Yesterday's was called UFOs and the media. Today's was called UFOs and the military. But really, it was about the media just as much today. And Gary is very scathing about the military, about the media, indeed, as they should be. So that was very good. Well done, Gary. He ends like talking like a policeman. Well, it's pretty obvious that I conclude 100% that this is a extraterrestrial incident. There's no doubt about it, and he's right. Good for him, right? Good for him. I look forward to seeing that film. Unfortunately, it's still in pre-production and being written and everything. But yeah, come, let's get a move on. Let's get this film shot and out in the cinema. You know, that's what I always say with my Panwo TV movies. Right, next one, Richard D. Hall. I'll have to catch up and have a drink with Richard at some point, you know, but the problem is because they've booked so many speakers, there's zero time for socialising at this event, which is another kind of criticism I have of it. Now Richard just came in with to premiere his new film, which is called the Burns and UFO Mountains Incident, and which is Scott Felton turned up. You know, it was great to see him. I did have a quick chat with him. He's the one who made this film for Richard and did all the work with Richard. It's absolutely fantastic. I have been waiting ages to see this. Like I say, Richard told me all about it a few months ago, and he asked me not to reveal what it was about, and I've kept that promise. I promised I wouldn't, and I've kept that promise. Oh, it's wonderful to see the film, and I just can't wait to see. I wish I could see Andy Roberts' face when he first sees it, because this is going to completely finish his career as a debunker, because there's no way he's going to dispute this. What's happened is there's an independent witness to the object on the ground, as well as it's not just Pat Evans. There was another one who lived at a place called Carngoch, which is in another area, and they might, because of the direction of where he saw the object, they're able to triangulate its actual location, and they found, like I said, they found an indentation in the earth about where that object could have landed. There's a bloke I know, one of the blokes I've been talking to at the conference is a geologist, and he said, well, why don't we go up there and check some of the rocks out, you know, find out if they've got magnets in them, or radiation or anything like that. Brilliant film. Right, Richard Dolan came on next and made a speech called UFOs and Manned Spaceflight. Now, as I was saying, the UFO manned space program seems to have ended. Well, it's certainly been ended for the foreseeable future. But Richard Dolan is saying, these things are going on in secret. You know, and he says he doesn't believe they've ended. Of course, that's perfectly possible. You know, he's talking about the weaponization of space, and he echoed a lot of what I've been reading in a recent Nexus article. You know, he asked several questions, like about how, you know, if there is this black budget space program, how is it funded? Because the official black budget is now up to about $50 billion, which is a lot of money. But you know, if it's as extensive as what people are claiming, you know, it's got to be more than that. Anyway, he said, you know, he talks about the missing trillions because, as you know, Donald Rumsfeld keeps stating. On the 10th of September 2001, Donald Rumsfeld stood up in the Pentagon and said, "I'm sorry, we've lost $3.8 trillion. Oh dear, Donald, did you leave it on the bus? Did you forget to pick it up when the driver offered you the change? You know, 3.8 trillion. What? It's not exactly petty cash, is it? We've lost it. Not very likely. Also, another way they fund these black budgets is sadly through the use of drugs. The drugs which the government says it's fighting so hard against the drug barons. Actually, the government actually has shares in these. Bill Clinton used to even be involved in landing drugs in America. What's very interesting is that Richard presents the conspiracy in a very, very interesting way. Instead of describing it as a pyramid with those who know at the top and the ignorant masses at the bottom, he uses the imagery of an iceberg. So it's the people at the top above the water, who are like you and me, who know everything. And the deeper you go, the more secret you get. And he has different levels of secrecy, such as confidential secret, top secret, and various other corporate government interest. Till you get to them, those who we have not named, who no one really knows who they are. But that's them, at the bottom. I call them the Illuminati. No one knows who they are. What this does is it really puts Nick Pope's information into perspective, because Nick Pope claims to be the omniscient expert on all matters ufological because he ran the UFO project at the Ministry of Defence. Now, interestingly, the files that have been released and he's been involved in declassifying are actually only confidential. These sightings reports, the ones that have been declassified, are only confidential. Now, confidential sounds like secret, but it's not. I mean, governments have different secrecy levels. Now, confidential is the lowest level of classification. It's below secret and then top secret, you see. So these files are not top secret files, they are confidential files. Now, really, that's about the same level as the medical records at my hospital. The medical records at my hospital, see, because my hospital is a government institution too, and it uses the same system. And the medical records and things like that in my hospital they're confidential too. And there's a few that sort of are kind of border on secret, but they're basically confidential stroke secret. Now, I have access to some of that information. I have signed an agreement by which I can't reveal what I learn from that information. I'm sometimes given some information from those files on a need-to-know basis, and if I ever reveal them, I'll be discharged from the NHS and hospital portering service and face criminal charges. So really, actually, I have access to just as much secret information, or maybe even more, than Nick Pope does. So that really throws it in perspective. Right, who's next? Oh, yeah. After that, I went off with Mark and Richard. That's a couple of other friends of mine. Not Richard Hall, another Richard, the geologist guy. We went to try and find something to eat. Ustane was very tired, and she had a bad leg, and we really were very, very stressed out because we couldn't find anywhere to bloody well eat. I mean, this is a big criticism I have. You know, they've put too much into the schedule. There's too many speakers. There's no time to socialise and meet and talk with other delegates. And then the catering is zero. There's not even a water fountain. Luckily, there's a hospital next door, and we went in there and bought some food, some sandwiches and things. I think that's going to have to do us now until the end of the conference. But at Probe, you see, they just have 4 speakers. Then you get the whole evening to socialise. You know, it's much better. Right. Now, Richard once again got me thinking about disclosure, about this whole disclosure business. Now, the next speaker, you know, went into this in even more detail, and that was Bryce Sable. I'll come to him in a minute.